Over the past year or so, the public perception of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury as boxers has changed quite dramatically, especially in the wake of Anthony Joshua's first career loss to Andy Ruiz, and also Tyson Fury's destruction of Deontay Wilder in their rematch. And as such, the majority of boxing fans at this stage and the boxing fraternity in general, which includes many boxing pundits and people associated with Sky Sports, which is the network that Anthony Joshua is signed to, the majority of them appear to be favoring Tyson Fury in a showdown against Anthony Joshua. This is people just looking at the situation objectively. That is their perception, that Tyson Fury is going to beat this guy. Now, Anthony Joshua, as expected, isn't really going for the same things that a lot of the general public are going for and a lot of boxing pundits, whereby they now see Tyson Fury as head and shoulders above him. And Anthony Joshua, in a recent Sky Sports interview, explained why. He said, quote, "What have you seen from Fury? A couple of feints, moving around? What have you seen that makes him seem so intimidating? Speed? If the sport is lacking so much talent, then all you need is feints and movement to be classed as a great of this generation. Well, with hard work, motivation, and studying, you can overcome that. So what do people see in Fury that is so fearsome, intimidating, that he can't be touched at the top level? I take him as a serious challenger, of course, but resume is taking him a long time to grow. His fight with Vladimir Klitschko was his first real challenge, and he overcame it. But it took him 8 years to build his experience and confidence. Then he had 2 years out and fought Deontay Wilder. He hasn't been in the deep end for long enough to show me that he can swim there for a long time. You have to continually prove that you belong there. You don't just come there once or twice. For me as a fighter, that's how you gain my respect." End quote. So Anthony Joshua clearly sees things very differently to the people who believe that Tyson Fury would destroy him. And there are many such people who don't just believe Fury wins, they believe he wins in convincing and devastating fashion. Now, one of them, and you would say, well, he's going to say that, is Andy Lee, who is Tyson Fury's cousin. He believes that Tyson Fury will stop Anthony Joshua, and there are many others who have said something similar in around 7 or 8 rounds. That's how long they think Tyson Fury will take to dispatch of AJ. Well, AJ, again, as you would expect, he doesn't buy into that. He's not intimidated by Tyson Fury, or so he says, because he doesn't think that Tyson Fury is as tried and tested over the long haul as people are making him out to be. Tyson Fury so far has had 3 world title fights. So he's fought 3 times at world level, against Vladimir Klitschko and twice against Deontay Wilder. So he looks at that and says, is that really somebody who we can rely on to just completely dominate the division and beat the likes of AJ easily and all these other fighters? Or does he have a lot more to prove than people realize, and that, more to prove than people are making out? I think Anthony Joshua has a point there. This is a point I've been making for a long time. Tyson Fury is clearly a very talented fighter, not just in terms of his physical ability, his skills, but also his mindset. He's very, very mentally strong. But as Anthony Joshua pointed out, it did take Tyson Fury a long time to build up the requisite level of confidence, strength, skill, etc. to become successful at world level. Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, was really fast-tracked to world level, and he ended up fighting elite competition, world-class competition, far earlier in his career than Tyson Fury did in his. And so AJ, I'm kind of deducing from what he's saying, he believes that stands him in good stead. The fact that he's been fighting, he's had more world title fights, and he's been fighting at a very high level from earlier on in his career. So we'll see what happens here. Now, in terms of Anthony Joshua not seeing Tyson Fury as intimidating, I believe him. Some people are going to say, no, AJ is intimidated. etc. No, I believe Anthony Joshua when he says he doesn't find Tyson Fury intimidating, because when Anthony Joshua was ABA champion as an amateur, this is a well-documented fact now, and you can still, I know some channels have removed this for some mysterious reason, but if you look hard, you can still find the interview that Tyson Fury did with Steve Bunce. I believe this was back in the Satanta days, or maybe it was on Box Nation, I forget now. But you can still hear the interview where Tyson Fury, at the time, I believe he was British heavyweight champion as a pro, he talks to Steve Bunce about Anthony Joshua. This is when Anthony Joshua was unknown to 99.9% of boxing fans. And in that interview, Tyson Fury said that he sparred the ABA champion, a guy called Anthony Joshua. He said, you need to watch out for him. He's really good. And he said, he admitted, I'm paraphrasing here, that he beat me up in sparring. And Steve Bunce was like really impressed that Tyson Fury had the honesty to say that an ABA, an amateur, was beating him up in sparring when Tyson Fury was British champion at the time. So Anthony Joshua went into that sparring session with Tyson Fury, inexperienced, just an ABA champion with a handful or relative handful of amateur bouts under his belt. He went in there against a guy who'd been boxing for far longer and was a British champion as a professional, and he was not intimidated in the slightest. By Tyson Fury's own admission, Anthony Joshua put it on him early in that sparring session. Now, I have seen some witnesses who said that the sparring session became more even the longer it went on because Tyson Fury got into his boxing, etc. But initially, Tyson Fury, by his own admission, was taken aback by how aggressive a young amateur, inexperienced novice, really, in Anthony Joshua at the time, how aggressive he was. And that leads me to believe that the same would be the case if they fought as professionals. Not a sparring session behind closed doors, but as professionals now. They've both come on leaps and bounds since then. But I just don't think that Tyson Fury has any intimidation factor over Anthony Joshua. I think Joshua would go in there very confident, actually. I think Anthony Joshua will be more confident against Tyson Fury than he would be against Deontay Wilder. Not to say he wouldn't be confident at all against Wilder. I just think stylistically, he likes the Tyson Fury fight a bit more. And also the previous experience that they had sharing a ring together. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, and whether Anthony Joshua has a point with regards to Tyson Fury being a very good heavyweight, obviously, but he hasn't been at the top for that long if you look at the number of world title fights he's had. So are people going a little bit overboard in believing that he's just going to destroy Anthony Joshua? Look, maybe they'll be right. It's all just speculation until two fighters get in the ring and face each other, okay? But on paper, are people going a little bit overboard? I know fights are not won and lost on paper and all these, adages and cliches. I accept that. But if you're analyzing it as, objectively as you can, and you're looking at all the pros and cons for both fighters, surely the fact that Anthony Joshua has had more world title fights and fought more top 10 opposition, surely that's a pro for him, isn't it? Isn't it a plus point for him? And maybe a little bit of a minus point for Tyson Fury, the fact that he's only had 3 world title fights. He's only fought at world level 3 times. Yeah. So hopefully this tremendous matchup can be made and all the speculation, etc., can be put to bed. And we find out once and for all who is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Hopefully they both get past their next fights. Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder, if that is his next fight, the rubber match, and Anthony Joshua against Kubrat Pulev. If not, it could be more chaos. We could be seeing Kubrat Pulev versus Tyson Fury, or Kubrat Pulev versus Deontay Wilder. You never know. It's heavyweight boxing, and it is notoriously unpredictable. I've been saying this on my channel for several years, because as somebody who has been watching boxing since the 1980s, this is something that you learn. Boxing in general can be very unpredictable, but the heavyweight division especially, you need to expect the unexpected. when these big guys are slinging heavy leather around, strange things can happen. And don't think for a second that the big upsets in the heavyweight division are all over with now. We've had AJ versus Ruiz. There's not going to be any more giant upsets that nobody saw coming. Oh no, there's going to be more. You'll see. This is what you find in these very competitive eras in the heavyweight division, is you find these surprising, monumental upsets occurring. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.